China's annual two sessions are set to open in Beijing on March 4th and 5th. They are the meetings of the National People's Congress and National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. The two sessions each year, they serve as a key window into the direction of China's political, economic, and foreign policies. By tradition, the Chinese premier would deliver the government work report with economic growth targets, defense budget, and Taiwan policy drawing particular attention from observers around the world. By late January, as we know, Zhang Youxia, the vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, was taken down. This upheaval at a high level, described as the most severe shake of China's military since the Cultural Revolution half a century ago, has injected additional uncertainty into the upcoming two sessions. China's Ministry of National Defense has described the investigation into Zhang Youxia as a major achievement. Take a look.
坚决查处张幼侠、刘振立是党和军队反腐败斗争取得的重大成果，是党和军队有决心、有力量的重要体现，对于打赢军队反腐败斗争攻坚战、持久战、总体战具有重要意义。
Politically, China's top soldier Zhang Youxia is under investigation. Will the two sessions formally remove him from his post as CMC vice chairman? And if so, how will Xi Jinping manage relations with the PLA? On the economy, this year also marked the start of China's 15th five-year plan. What key areas of the new plan should observers watch out for? And finally, how will the Chinese government work report provide clues to China's posture on Taiwan and on Trump in 2026? Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Wen-Ti Song. To unpack these issues, I'm joined by two distinguished guests today. First, we have Titus Chen, National Chen-Chi University IIR Research Professor and Deputy Director. And we also have Zeng Weifeng, National Chen-Chi University IIR Associate Research Fellow. Everyone, welcome to the show, Weifeng, Titus. So according to an announcement by the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress on February 4th, the delegates, the delegate credentials of Zhou Xingming, Luo Qi, and Liu Changli were all revoked as of that date. The 14th National People's Congress has 2,897 deputies in office. That number tells you that Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli are still NPC delegates for now. So I want to come to Titus, I think, for my first question here about Zhang Youxia and the NPC delegate number. We can tell that technically they are still NPC delegates at this moment, even though they have been under investigation for a little while now. So I'm wondering, what do you expect Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli to appear at the NPC session? And if not, does it mean it's the end of the political career?
Well, although they are placed under investigation by CMC, and the CCP disciplinary body, their formal CMC and NPC titles are not yet stripped. So technically, they are still qualified to attend NPC annual session. But according to past practice or past patterns, it is likely that Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli will not attend the two sessions. So his seat will be most likely left vacant as a sign of purge. It has, almost never happened in the past that a purged military leader will eventually make a comeback.
Indeed. Weifeng, what's your take on this Zhang Youxia affair?
I agree with Professor Chen just mentioned that I don't think the two top generals will appear in the session because they already been purged, right? And there's actually a procedure things to do that. It's not the NPC standing committee who can do the maybe recall or strip qualification. They can do that, but actually generally it is the PLA. There's a PLA assembly who elect them as the NPC members into the NPC who can do the recall.
Right, so it's not an NPC full committee that removed me. It's the PLA caucus within NPC that does the removal.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a democratic system, but it's not real democratic. So it actually it's in a grassroots level that those soldiers elect Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli into the NPC, that then become the NPC members.
Interesting. That's like grassroots democracy with Chinese characteristics almost.
So I think, but I agree with that. It's not technical; it's political. So I don't think their seats will appear in these 2 sessions.
Okay, so they exist on paper for now, but maybe not going to be there in person. Yeah. It sounds like. We finally ask you again on this Zhang Youxia issue here. We know that Zhang Youxia is not alone, really. His purge is part of a bigger trend. Yeah. If you want, China's military-industrial complex, more generally speaking, seems to be under a lot of stress lately. There's the military side. We know that the POA, General Armaments Department, for example, the rocket forces, to some extent the Navy, have been purged at very high levels. Even on the civilian side, though, we look at people like Zhou Xingming or Luo Qi. These are leading figures in China's aerospace and nuclear industries, which have dual use, obviously civilian and military implications. Even they are getting purged recently. So I'm wondering, with these kind of purges left and right across the board, do you see this sort of technocratic, expert-led model to China's defense industrial development to be under challenge? And if so, what kind of impact would it have on China's ability to deliver military modernization at the timeline they wanted?
Okay, so of course, I mean, I think we will expect to see that the POA, maybe their technology and their, like technology-led development models might be get into a process of reorganization, of course, because of, as I know, after 2026, just like 2 months, less than 2 months, there already been 10 tigers in Chinese anti-corruption campaign. They are tigers, they are flies. Tigers means like those like big names, like the top level officials. There are already more than 10 tigers being purged. So there must be a reorganizing process in the PLA, but I don't think it means the end of the, technocrat that model, because they still need those technocrats to modernize the military. It means like there must be some new person or new names, like with the getting into the positions in PLA.
Right. So, Titus, it seems like you have something to add to that issue as well.
I will not be so quick to jump to on that conclusion that the existing expert-led defense industrial model is gone, is done. I think, just like we've all mentioned, these technocrats and chief scientists, which are not known to outsiders like us, but they are very senior within the establishment of China's military or defense industrial complex. But despite their seniority, they can be replaced. So I suspect the progress of China's next generation weaponry development will be canceled or halted or stalled. I would say the speed of weapon development might be slowed down a bit because now you have a change of hands. And now political loyalty will be given more importance, will be placed more emphasis on the quality, on the credentials of these engineers or technocrats than before.
Interesting. So tigers and flies getting taken down. So it's like big fish, small fish, all getting caught. However, they're going to get new fishes, maybe more loyal new fishes.
Yeah.
All right. So Titus, on that issue about military modernization, obviously it requires defense budget to get there, right? And we know that defense budget for China is hitting about 7% at a time where their economic target or growth is more like 5% or so, give or take. So given this disparity, higher defense budget than overall economic growth rate, what's your take on what kind of policy, priority, or political anxiety that this gap tells us about China today?
Yeah, despite the sluggish or slump of economic performance, it is, I think, very likely that Xi Jinping will still, go ahead and push this allocation of disproportionate government and state resources to defense industry and military modernization, which means the defense budget growth will outpace the expected economic growth. And that indicates the great importance Xi Jinping attaches and will continue to attach to the military.
Interesting. And on that issue too, Wei Feng, do you think this kind of allocation of resources reflect more about CCP's concern for regional security, or is it more a reflection of eagerness to start something major conflict-wise or combat readiness-wise?
I think, yeah, just like Professor Chen just mentioned, I believe that, of course, I mean, it is entirely expected that these 2 sessions, the defense spending will continue to outpace the GDP growth, of course. And I think they did so, just Professor Chen also mentioned, because of the PLA modernization. So Xi Jinping or the CCP is trying to accelerate the military modernization. The second thing, just like you mentioned, actually, the next year is 2027, which is the year that Xi Jinping has ordered the military to be prepared to have the coercive capacity in the Taiwan Strait, right? To have a dominant capacity in dealing with Taiwan issues. So I think this maybe 7% or more than 7% the growth in military spending is expected, and their goal, first, modernization; second, to have a full preparedness to deal with Taiwan issue. They got to be prepared, but it doesn't mean they will use force.
Right, okay, so 2027, the first centennial of the 2 centennial goals, it will still remain a focus for China, for sure. Let me move on to the economic infrastructure, to the broader military design here, and talk about economic side of the equation. Economically, 2026 marks the start of China's 15th 5-year plan period, that is 2026 to 2030. China's top economic planner, the NDRC, that is the National Development and Reform Commission, is planning to advance a number of major milestone projects in high-tech industries during the 15th 5-year plan period. Take a look.
展望2026年，我国经济结构呢将持续向优，发展动能呢持续向新，整体发展态势呢持续向好。目前我们正在谋划推进一批15、17的高技术产业标志性引领性重大工程。
So we just heard about China's 15th 5-year plan, and Titus, I want to ask you, when it comes to this major macroeconomic planning, what are you watching out for from this 15th 5-year plan? Are there defining priority you think we should expect to see, and what kind of critical sectors or future industry do you think China has in mind as it pursues its 2035 economic modernization goals?
When we read the new 5-year national plan, this is the legacy or the heritage of a state planning or planned economy system, and China still has that, and it's still very crucial to the development of Chinese economy. I think for this new national plan, the 5-year plan, the catchphrase or the secret lies in this term, the new quality productive forces, which refer to high-tech industries or industries that are infused with cutting-edge technologies, such as Internet of Things, IoT, or AI, or robotics, things that China are really good at. So the defining priorities of the new 5-year plan is what they call the AI plus strategy. The key priority is to integrate AI into all the major industries.
Interesting. This almost reminds me of the Jiang Zemin era when you talk about the trend for informationization of military. This is the informationization of the economy, more broadly speaking. I want to come to Wei Feng for the next question about GDP growth rate targets. We know that Wall Street Journal, for example, talk about the 5% economic growth target as a bit of a political straitjacket that, for good or worse, for regardless of uncertainty out there or domestically, that 5% growth rate target seems to be the mantra that China sticks to all the time. So I'm wondering, why do you think Beijing is clinging to this 5% growth rate number, even though there's so much uncertainty, be it tariff war, be it deflation, housing issues at work? Like, why the symbolic value of 5%?
This is an obsession, of course. I think the reason behind the obsession is that they have this belief. It's more ideologically because they have this belief that the East is rising, the West is declining, 东升西降. So they have to maintain the growth rate maybe in 5% to make sure that they will continue to grow, and the growth is outrunning the West to make the ultimate goal that China will become the #1 economy in the world. China will be like economically bigger than the United States in terms of GDP, and China will be the most strong country in the world, maybe in 2049. So if you calculate the growth rate from 2099 dates back to currently, maybe 5% is in their calculation. We have to maintain 5%, then we will reach our final goal in the mid of 2050. So I think that's the case that why they have this obsession in 5% economic growth rate. Otherwise, they might think they won't achieve this goal. It will completely destroy their belief that the East is rising and the West is declining.
This is interesting. So this is almost the Allison tenure, 2049 China dream, where they want to become the most potent economy.
Yes, yeah.
Then they do the math and reverse engineer to what growth will we need every year roughly to get there.
I think that might be the case, yeah.
All right, that's excellent. And I want to ask Titus, one other component we often talk about is this other document that we call the #1 document for every year. And so, Titus, would you mind just enlighten us about what's this so-called #1 document, and why is it always focused on agriculture in Chinese thinking?
Well, #1 document means the first published open document that was released by the CCP central leadership every year, normally in January, before the 2 sessions. And this is just a traditional practice that CCP first published document every year is about rural economy, is about agricultural development, about the welfare of farmer or agricultural sectors. That's their practice to show that the CCP government really attach importance to the welfare of the agriculture and the farmers.
Thank you for that. And one component of the #1 document this year is the role of rural markets, specifically talks not only about food security, but it also talk about the importance of pushing new EVs, electronic vehicles, and new appliances into rural markets. So Wei Feng, I'm wondering, how do you interpret this shift towards stimulating demand in the rural market, and what did that tell you about economic situation or thinking in China?
I think I can add a little bit on Professor Chen just mentioned. First, I mean the fifth year plan. One of the key elements in the plan is a domestic market. So to make the demands in domestic market, make the unifying domestic market is the goal for the 5th year plan. So to do so, you have to find any possibility to increase the domestic consumption. So I think rural area is a place. So, and another thing is the #1 document, it actually was initiated in 2004. At the time, the rural area is kind of like a mess. There's a lot of problems. Local grassroots officials were corrupted, and it's underdeveloped.
Governance standard may be more problematic.
Yeah, and the farmers and the peasants, they are abused. They experience the abuse of power from local officials. So there are so many unrest in the rural areas. So the central government decided to deal with this issue. So they issued this the #1 document to develop rural areas. So after 2004, just Professor Chen just mentioned, every first document this year from the central authority is about the agricultural issues. So I think this time the #1 document has been connected to the 5th year plan to increase domestic consumption, and the farmers, the resident has been the least willing person to do the consumption. They are a large excessive saving rate. in the rural area. So they have to make them to be willing to buy things like appliance, like cars, electronic cars, and like like furnitures. So I think it's more like connected to the goal to develop the economy from the number one documents.
Interesting, right? So in that sense, rural area have that political significance for CCP itself, and also, I guess, economically, it's a bit of a domestic emerging market to
also
tap
for
into.
Xi Jinping, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Xi
sure.
Jinping was the one who designed the policy for rural areas.
Oh yeah, I mean, the man did spend some of his youth years in rural areas,
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah.
right?
May I add
yes,
a
please.
few words? I think this new 5-year plan talks about rural markets or rural sectors. It suggests to me that urban appetite or urban consumption for AI integrated appliance and EVs, I think it has reached saturation level. So to boost domestic economy, Chinese government seeks to stimulate the demand of agricultural or rural populations. And that means a flood of state-sponsored subsidies, such as appliance trade-ins and discounted price of electrical cars to people registered as rural residents. You're going to see a lot of that. Right. So tax rebates for corporations selling these products at lower prices to rural residents. You're going to see that too. So state subsidies and the tax rebates are what you're going to see in the next 5-year plan.
Obviously, we know that the premier will deliver a government work report, and you usually talk about Taiwan. I'm wondering, do you expect more hawkish rhetoric from the government work report this time around, or what are you watching out for on the Taiwan portion from this address?
Well, for Premier or Prime Minister, his annual government work report always covers Taiwan policy or Taiwan affairs, but it's always placed toward the end of his report. And we know that Taiwan affairs or any Taiwan issues is actually Xi Jinping's jurisdiction.
His territory.
Yeah, his territory, his policy territory. So premiers speaking about Taiwan is quite limited, normally within economic and social and cultural exchanges. So I think Premier's work report will cover Taiwan just briefly in the passing terms without substance, without much substance. The same old narrative about 1992 consensus, promoting unification, anti-Taiwan independence, and working with like-minded Taiwanese compatriots. Narratives like that we have seen and heard a lot. Will be repeated most likely this year.
Last question to Titus. Again, this we know that from the Xi-Trump phone call, Xi complained about U.S. arms sales to Taiwan, of course, but this time around, Xi seemed to use a relatively softer language. When he talked about U.S. arms sales, he didn't quite say anything like resolutely opposed to arms sales. Rather, he's simply urging U.S. to show more prudence as they go about handling the business. So what's your read here about this restraint, if you will?
It certainly is a self-restraining tone, and that reflects a temporary or tactical level ceasefire or truce that has emerged in U.S.-China relations. Because the two sides, Beijing and Washington, they both have leverage that can checkmate the other. The U.S. can impose high tariffs on Chinese exports, and China can stop the export of rare earth elements to the U.S. So both can hurt the other side. So it looks likely that both sides are intent on keeping this truce or ceasefire until April summit between Xi and Trump.
Thank you. Yes.
Can I add a little bit comments on that? I agree with that, and I have a thinking about this issue, because if you compare this time the Xi Jinping's expressions on the arms sale issue with his expression last year when they have a call in November, Xi Jinping firmly told Trump to stop arming Taiwan, right? And this time to deal with the arms sale with Taiwan with prudence. I think, yeah, of course, it's kind of like ceasefire language. But another, perspective is that it might signal something, because if you tell me to do something, you tell me to stop doing something, it means like it's impossible, right? So she knows like Trump won't stop, but he just expressed his positions on this issue. But if you tell me to do something with prudence, it means Xi Jinping actually signal something that, okay, if you do something with prudence, maybe we can talk about it. We can bring this on table to discuss. We can discuss Taiwan issue. So it means like maybe he actually sent a signal to Trump that, okay, if you really want to ameliorate the relationship between the two powers, maybe we can discuss Taiwan issues in April.
Interesting. So rather than just two sides talking in parallel about your red line, my red line, he's saying, I'm trying to help you out here. Maybe we can work it out.
Yeah.
And that's, okay, I'm not sure how to read that if that's a situation.
Prudence, so yeah, how to define prudence. So it's like, it depends on Trump's wisdom.
On that note, thank you both so much, Weifeng, Titus, for your wonderful insight today. Really appreciate it. If you like our show, please search for us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, and hit subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching our show today, and I'll see you next time.